Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today, as you can see, I have a bonus video up for you guys this week. Because I am home, I have a little bit more time to film, especially since I'm on spring break right now and don't really have a lot of homework to do. I've done a little bit. I have still like a little bit left, but I got some extra time, so I wanted to film for you guys while I'm here and available and have some ideas in my head. So today, I know I'm touching my face a lot, COVID-19, sorry. I have a bunch of hand sanitizer over there. I swear I'm okay. My nose is itching. So today for you guys, I have a ranking of all of my palettes. They are all sitting here to the side of me. This is gonna take a little bit of time, but I'm excited to share all of my palettes with you guys first of all, and then why I like them or why I don't like them. There's none in here that I really don't like, except probably this last one. But there's some in here that I obviously like more than others and want to use more than others, and I want to share that with you guys, see if you have very similar opinions or very different opinions. I just think that that would be a lot of fun. So I got my water bottle right here because I'm going to be doing a lot of talking in this video. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. So the first palette I'm actually going to mention, I'm not ranking this guy because he has a very specific purpose in my collection, and it is literally the only thing it does in my collection, and that's the Tarte Rainforest The Sea Volume 3. In theory, I guess I'd probably rank this second to last because, like I said, I really am just not a fan of the last one. But really the only thing that I use this guy for, I use sometimes this matte shade right here as like a transition shade, but 9 times out of 10 the only thing that I use this for is a mirror, and B, I'll just pick one of these shades depending on my eye look and I'll just use it as a brow bone highlight. So he has a purpose in my collection. I don't like or dislike him. It's just kind of hanging out there with one very specific purpose. He's not one that I put on my wheel spin at all because I really can't make a whole look out of it. I do use it all the time, just about every day, and so that's why he's not in my ranking, just kind of there, hanging out with a purpose. Okay, so I have 26 palettes other than the one I just showed you, and so we're gonna go from the bottom all the way up. So for number 26, the one that I kind of really just don't care for is one that I actually got on my BoxyCharm this month. I didn't put a BoxyCharm unboxing on my Snapchat just because I opened my BoxyCharm the day before I came home for spring break in the midst of all the COVID-19 drama. So I just kind of opened it really quickly, didn't film it or anything. My BoxyCharm videos don't tend to get as much viewing on YouTube, so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take a month off. I'm putting that one on YouTube. Might do it again next month. I'm not sure. But this is the Hank and Henry Living in Color palette. So it looks like this. These are the colors, and none of them are just really striking me. And honestly, this is just big and bulky and a lot of empty space for pretty much no reason. The color payoff isn't super great. Like, that just, it's okay. It seems just a little chalky. Oh, very chalky, very streaky. Like, it doesn't seem very impressive, and the colors just aren't anything that are screaming to me. To be honest, it kind of reminds me of like one of the palettes that I would get at Claire's when I was younger, which, don't get me wrong, if this was like me first getting into makeup, this is everything, this is perfection. But Kelsey, that's been doing makeup for 10 years at this point, close to it, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9. This just isn't my cup of tea. Like, and honestly, this right here was the first time I swatched it because I really just didn't care. I was not excited about this one. I was hoping I would get the BoxyCharm palette in this month's box. So when I got this one, I was like, oh. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this one. Sorry, Hank and Henry. I have nothing against you. You guys make great eyeliner. It's great. Awesome. I'm just not impressed. Sorry. So the next palette that I have in here, you guys have seen before, and you guys have kind of heard me kind of BS talk this guy a little bit. This is the Makeover Essentials Classic 10 palette. I've had this for a very, very long time. This is what it looks. Okay. This is what it looks like. So it's a long palette, and it's a very like dark and smoky palette, which is not what I tend to wear. I don't tend to look as good in darker smoky looks. I tend to look better in warmer pinks, purples, oranges. Like, those are just tends to be the colors that I A, look better in, and B, am more comfortable using. And then also, half of these just aren't pigmented, and none of them are completely matte. They all have a little bit of shimmer in them. This was given to me as a gift, which is why I don't have the heart to get rid of it right now. So I still use it sometimes, like, with another palette. So if I spin this one on my wheel spin, I always spin a second time and I'll use the two palettes together. But yeah, this is towards the bottom of my collection. It's not that I don't use it, I just really don't want to use it. But I don't have the heart to get rid of it yet until I've at least put a bigger dent in some of these shadows. So, sorry Makeover Essentials. I think this is one that you can buy at like Five Below, or... Actually, I'm gonna be real, I've never seen this one in a store, so I have no idea where this came from. Okay. So next I have the Storybook Cosmetics Robin Hood palette. And the quality of these shadows are really good. I just find myself making the same look all the time. I'm just not finding it to be super versatile. Like I said, shadows are really good, kind of bulky packaging. I get the theme, but it does just kind of take up space and it's a little hard to like package per se, like in my collection. So it's cute, it's good quality, it's just not my favorite because I'm not overly inspired by it. The greens look great on my eye color, and that's about all it's got going for me right now. So, sorry Storybook, I do really like your formula and I like you as a brand. I've gotten most of my use out of this palette that I can, other than when I spin it on my wheel spin, So next is the ColourPop Soul palette. So some of you guys may be surprised that I have a ColourPop palette so low down on my list, because you guys know I love ColourPop. So I bought this palette. First of all, this is what it looks like. As you can see, I'm missing a shadow. So, which is totally my fault. That's not ColourPop's fault. I dropped it like twice within the first week and the shadow was just completely destroyed. Like, there was no reviving that thing. So I bought this one, and actually this guy right here is actually threatening to pop out a little bit. I bought this for Mary Poppins, which I did last summer, and it totally was useful, and I thoroughly enjoy this palette. I enjoy the mirror, I enjoy the colors because, like I said, it's a warmer palette, and warmer palettes tend to look good on my skin. But again, I just find myself using the same colors and doing the same looks and everything, so I'm just not overly inspired by it anymore. It was great when I first got it, and now I'm just kind of like, it's there. I use it. But it is a good palette, and if you like warm palettes and think you can be inspired by this by a long time, then I totally recommend this palette because, again, ColourPop shadows, they're my favorite formula, and they're so good. This just isn't one that does it for me too much anymore. That may change in the future, but right now, that's why it's sitting so low. Next is the Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves palette. So again, I adore the colors in here. I love a good mauve color scheme, especially in the fall and winter time. I just don't find myself reaching for it that often. It doesn't come up on my wheel spin very often. It stays in my everyday makeup bag because it is so small and compact, which I appreciate. I just don't tend to use it very often. I wish that there was a little bit more of like a highlight shade in here, because this, even like when you use it, it's a little bit dark, so it doesn't act much like a highlight. And it is very, very dusty. Like, normally I don't mind Kickback, but this has so much of it. Like, it's a bit excessive. I can mostly get over it, but truth is, I just have better palettes in my collection. It's not that I don't like this, I just have better palettes. But I am curious to try more Dose of Colors palettes and formulas, and I do like this palette. I just have better ones. So next is the Urban Decay Naked Basics. Now, this palette, I used and abused the crap out of this thing when I first got it. As you can see, I hit pan on the one shadow. You may or may not be able to see that right there. I'm really, really close to hitting pan on the next one. Like, it is a perfect everyday makeup palette for someone who literally they only want neutrals. Like, this is the matte version of Wet n Wild's Walking on Eggshells, which was a staple for me when I first started wearing makeup. But again, because I use a lot more color and warmer colors especially, I just don't find myself reaching for this one very much anymore. It's a good one to pack with you for travel. You can just slide it in somewhere, like in a bag. Like it's so small. It's really good for travel. I think I took this on a vacation with me one time, and so this was like the only thing I had with me, and I actually was able to create a bunch of different looks with it. But I just don't find myself using it anymore because it's not the looks that I wear. It's still a great palette. I totally recommend the Naked Basics, or the Naked Basics 2. I just don't wear it much anymore. So next is the Morphe Dare to Create palette, the 39A. So when I bought this, it was limited edition. They ended up releasing it as a permanent product. But when I bought it, it was limited edition, and I bought it for myself as a Christmas present, and I was so proud of myself. And I love Morphe's formula. I really, really do. This is what it looks like. As of right now, I just don't find myself being inspired by it. There's so many different colors in here, and it really is a good neutral palette because it has an entire row of neutrals and like a whole corner. But it also is very colorful, so you can totally do so many different looks with it. I really like big palettes because I like the versatility of big palettes. They don't overwhelm me or anything like that. I adore big palettes. I just don't find myself reaching for these as much anymore. This is a little bit more of like a muted palette, and I like brighter colors. It comes up on my wheel spin. I use it. I like what I come up with. It's just not my favorite. I also don't like, this is a really petty thing to not like, but I don't like that the names are on the plastic sheet. I like when the names are actually on the palette so that I can get rid of the plastic sheet. I know that that's a really dumb thing to get triggered by, but like... Ugh. Next is the Violet Voss Essentials Pro Series palette. This came in one of my first BoxyCharms. This is a really pretty palette, a really pretty formula. I just find myself not using it very often, not having it come up on my wheel spin. And when it does, I tend to do the same look with it. I go in with sand and then Dusty Rose and then a terracotta, tiny little bit of cinnamon on here. I put that as the brow bone highlight color. And this is the lid color or the gold. And then sometimes I'll do like an emerald eyeliner, or sometimes I'll put the black on the outer corner. So I do use all of the colors in here, but it just tends to be the same look over and over again. So, I mean, that's pretty fair. Like, it is an Essentials palette, and it does do really good work. It perfectly balances neutrals and colors. Again, I just tend to like bigger palettes because I like the versatility, so I just don't find myself like screaming with excitement when it comes up on my wheel spin. Next I have the Too Faced Natural Love palette. So when this first came out, I was so excited. I was so excited. I ordered it, and I remember going to work the next day because I worked with a bunch of people who also love makeup, and I was like, you guys, guess what I just bought? And I was so hype about it. And it really is a very like pretty neutral palette. It's just, especially for the time when I was really into neutrals and just sliding my toe into color, this was perfect. But now I look at it and I'm like, where are the matte shadows? There's 6. There's 6 matte shadows in here, and there are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. There's 30 shadows. 6 of them are matte. I personally like palettes that have more mattes to shimmers, which is the only issue that I tend to have with the Juvia's Place palettes. So, again, I just don't get overly excited about it anymore. I think I went probably like a whole year without using this at this point. I did just use it the other day, and I am getting use out of it again. But it's just not my favorite. It's actually really pretty, but the colors just aren't super pigmented, and I just wish there were more mattes in here. So, Too Faced doesn't make my favorite shadow formula. It's okay. This color here called Poodle, I'm actually going to swatch for you. This color Poodle is my favorite color in the palette because it's such a beautiful highlight shade. And that's pretty much what this palette has going for it, is that shade right there. Next is the Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette. So this was gifted to me actually last year, so I haven't had this one for too long yet. But as I kind of mentioned before with the Makeover Essentials palette, I just don't tend to wear smoky eyes very often. I just tend to like warmer colors. The formula is really nice, and I really, like, when I do wear a smoky eye, when I do use this palette, I really like what I have. It's just nothing to drop dead over. Like, it's pretty, and it's cool, and the formulas are nice, and there's something just really satisfying about buying a Naked palette or owning a Naked palette, whether it be like 1, 2, or 3, or the Naked Basics or anything like that. But it's just, you know, it's there in my collection, and I use it. The packaging is really cool, and it's pretty sturdy, so that's nice. And then last for the half, because I kind of divided this in half. I had like my meh pile and my, yeah, we're starting to get into the ones that I like. So last but not least is the Morphe James Charles palette. And so I bought this one, I don't think right when it first came out, but I bought it like pretty soon into its launch, I think. So again, the first thing, not crazy about the names being on the clear plastic sheet. So as you can see, certain colors in here have been very well loved. The green down here at the bottom has been very well loved. This black has seen better days. I hit pan on it. And that's because, again, for Mary Poppins, the black I was using to soot pretty much all of the chimney sweeps. I had to soot and de-soot and re-soot a bunch of them, so that's what I was using for that. And then the green I had to use for my Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious makeup look. But again, there's so many pretty colors in here, and it's a very pigmented palette, and James Charles did a really, really good job with this one when he designed it. I just don't find myself getting overly excited when it comes up on my wheel spin, which is sad because, again, it's very, very pretty. I'm just not overly inspired by it anymore. So, very pretty. I like the formula, and again, if you're inspired by this, totally go and get it, for sure. I think it's really, really good. I'm not, like, I've gone back and forth on how I feel about James Charles, but how I feel about James Charles or any YouTuber doesn't determine whether I buy their stuff or like their stuff. If they come out with a good product, I'm gonna buy it. I really don't like Jeffree Star. I can't explain it to you. I just don't like him. But I know his stuff is really good. I don't own any of his stuff, but I've tried his stuff, and it really is good. And one of these days I'm gonna invest in something. I'm gonna invest in like the Bloodlust palette or something. But so I don't like him, but I know his stuff is good, and that's not going to stop me from buying it. So no matter how you feel about James Charles, if this palette inspires you and you think it's really good, you can totally go ahead and get it. So now we are getting into the better half and the top 15 palettes that I own. So that is the stack over here. So we're going to start at 15 and go up to the top. Although I'm pretty sure half of you guys probably already guessed what my top palette is. But if you haven't, it's okay. We're going to get there. So at number 15, we have the Dominique Cosmetics Celestial Thunder palette. So this is a really, really good palette. I've discovered that I absolutely adore Dominique Cosmetics formula. Again, my big issue, it's not even a big issue, is that I just find myself doing the same look every time. I start out with this guy, and then I go in with this guy. Occasionally I'll go in with this guy and a little bit of this guy. And I use this as either lid color or brow bone highlight. I don't tend to use these three colors right here. But I love the look that I make with this every time. And again, the formula is really cool. And I think that I would actually really like the full-size Celestial Storm palette. I just haven't invested in it yet. The other one that I'm looking into is buying one of the Latte palettes. I think I want Latte 1 before I want Latte 2. I thought I was going to want Latte 2 first, and the more I look at it, I'm like, nah, I think Latte 1 is calling my name. So, but this is number 15. I do really, really like it. I just tend to do the same look over and over again. What are you gonna do? So coming in at number 14, we have the Lorac Pro palette. This palette has been extremely well loved. As you guys can probably tell, I've hit pan on so many shadows in here. Again, I got this towards the very beginning of when I started doing makeup. The formula is just so buttery and soft and smooth and blendable, and I love it. I'm just starting to run out and hit pan on this guy. So there's only so many colors I can use at this point. And it just tends to be a little bit more cooler tone of a palette for me. Like I've mentioned before in this video, I tend to go for warmer palettes. So when this comes up on my wheel spin, I totally use it and I'm excited about it. And it does look really nice. It's like a little change in scenery from what I normally do. But it just falls like right in the middle of the pack because I love it, I just don't use it a lot. So coming in at 13, we have the Urban Decay Naked palette, the original. I bought this half off right before they discontinued it. So thank you, Ulta, for still selling it. So I actually really like the brush that comes in here. Fun fact, I know a lot of people like will throw theirs out. I actually really like it. It just tends to be a bit of a cooler palette again, so I don't use it as often as I do my warmer palettes. You'll find that especially starting just about right now, the rest of these are pretty warm palettes for me. So it's very, very pretty. Again, pretty blendable, and there's something so satisfying about owning the original Naked palette, because this was all of this, and the Naked 2 were like all of the rage when I first started watching YouTube beauty community videos. So I definitely am not going to part with this anytime soon. I just don't use it very often. Next is the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Bling Boss palette. So this came out as part of her Vault collection, and I know that there's a lot of controversy about this collection and this palette because there was some inconsistency, I believe, with the formula. It was supposed to be the same formula as her Jaclyn 1 palette, and it wasn't. But I've never really had a problem with mine. The only issue that I have is like this guy, especially the color Ballsy here. It did get a little bit of like quote unquote stiff pan, I think is what it's called, where like you use your finger and I guess the oils collect up on it, and like it's a little harder to use. But especially because purples look really good on my eyes, I actually really like this palette. I don't find myself reaching for it too often unless it is football season, because your girl's a Ravens fan, so like purple, got a purple lipstick over there, like the colors come out. But I do really like this palette. I never had an issue with the formula. Do I think it is the same palette or the same formula from the original? No, so I can see why people would be upset, but I never had an issue with this. I never even really heard of the controversy until the Morphe Jaclyn 2 was released, and they were like, there was so much controversy with the Vault palettes, and I was like, there was? When? So, I don't know, I guess I was just slacking and hearing the tea. So, coming in at number 11, I'm losing track here, I got my handy dandy list, is the Morphe 35F palette. This is the Fall into Frost palette. The main issue that I have, again, is that the matte to shimmer ratio is a little off, but I do love using this palette in the fall time because this is everything that I think about when I think of fall. I do tend to wear cooler colors in the fall time. Allergies, I promise. I promise. So I do tend to use this in the fall time. I especially love to use these purples and these berries over here. I just love berry tones in the fall time. It's everything. I remember I had this cargo palette. I totally forget what it's called, but I used to do this gorgeous, like what I called campfire cranberry look with a bronze and a gold and a cranberry and a little bit of green. Oh, it gave me so many vibes. It was so good. So I don't find myself reaching for this often unless it is the fall time, but it's a gorgeous palette and great formula. So at number 10, I have the Juvia's Place Warrior palette. I love the Juvia's Place formula, and I love the packaging of Juvia's Place, and I think they're really good. Again, their matte to shimmer ratio just isn't my favorite, and I find these tend to be a little more gold toned than I like to wear. When I wear neutrals, I like neutrals. Almost leaning towards cool tones, but a little bit more orange than gold. So I just find myself, I use this often in tandem with the Saharan palette or the Nubian palette. But I love the formula and I love the pigmentation, and I cannot believe I slacked on Juvia's Place for so long. So coming in at number 9 was a palette that I just mentioned, which is the Nubian palette. So this is a recent purchase for me. This is the first palette that Juvia's Place ever came out with, and it is a neutral palette, and I really like neutral palettes, and so especially in tandem with the Warrior palette, it is beautiful. You have a range from light to dark up here, and the entire center row here is shimmers, and then we got a lot of mattes and stuff down here and up top. So I think this ratio is just about what I like it, about half and half. and this is a little warmer, and the other one's got the gold, and I think in tandem those two work really, really well together. Like I said, I love the formula. Coming in at number 8, we have the Ace Beauté Scarlet Dusk palette. I really like a good pink look. I mean, obviously, as you can tell, I got some like pink going up in here. So this is perfect. I love a good pink look, especially around Valentine's Day. I love how compact this is. The colors are really blendable and they layer nicely. I find that these two tend to look very similar, but the pigmentation is really good, the formula is really good, and I'm super happy that I got this in my BoxyCharm. So I definitely want to look further into Ace Beauté as a company, and I really like this palette. Coming in at number 7, we have the original Jaclyn Hill palette. This is an oldie but a goodie. I don't find myself spinning it too often on my wheel spin, but when I do, I get very excited. I've hit pan on a few shades, not too many. I definitely tend to go more neutral when I wear this palette, and I like to use this one actually for like a warm matte eye. I think it's so good, but this little corner right here just, I love using these colors as accent colors. So nice. And there's a specific look that I used to do, especially during freshman year, that I would do with this palette. And it was like a red and green with like some silver smoke in there. Oh, so pretty. So good. So I do really, really love this palette, and I find myself getting very excited when it comes up. Next is the palette that I'm actually wearing on my eyes today. The ColourPop It's All Good palette. This is number 6. I really like this palette. I love ColourPop's formula. You guys have heard me talk about this before. I do tend to do the same looks, use the same colors most of the time when I use this palette. It does have repressed glitter in it, which I personally don't mind, but I know some people have an issue with that. But I really like this palette, and I get very excited to use it. This guy comes up on my wheel spin a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think my wheel spin's a little biased towards this palette, but I do really like it. I like the packaging. And again, I like bigger palettes. So coming in at number 5, we have the ColourPop So Jaded palette. So this was the first mega palette that they came out with, and it was a collaboration with Kathleen Lights. ColourPop and Kathleen Lights collaborations have always been really, really good, and this palette is no exception. There's so many different shades in here, so many different looks that you can do, because you have more like fall tones, there's just a wide variety of colors in here. I almost never do the same look twice, and when I do, it's because I love it that much. All of the colors are pigmented, and I especially love the Super Shock shadow in here called Diamond. It is just the most perfect glitter topper to like any shade ever. It's so, so good, and she really nailed it out of the park with this one. I actually haven't used it in a little bit because it hasn't come up in my wheel spin, and I think I might have to go against my wheel spin very soon and use this if it doesn't come up, because it is so pretty, and it's near and dear to my heart because it was the first mega palette release, and I remember being so hyped. I don't think I bought it on the first launch. It might have been the second one. I just remember sneaking away from work into the bathroom in the library to buy this palette. It's almost like a black market purchase. It was weird. I don't know why. Coming in at number 4, we have the Morphe Jaclyn Hill 2 palette. Again, another recent purchase for me, but oh my god, it just speaks to me, man. This is Warm Haven Sunset Eye Central. Got some neutrals up top, which is perfect because, again, I love neutrals. But everything about this palette just makes me excited. And I have not had issues with just about any of the colors yet. I love every look that I put together with this palette. And it's so good. I mean, it's Jaclyn Hill and Morphe. Like, you can't go wrong with that combo right there. Unless you're one of those who had issues with the Vault collection, then I guess you can, but like, I've never had issues with that collaboration. So in my mind, you can't go wrong with that. So I really love this palette. Coming in at number 3, I'm pretty sure this is a shock to no one. We have the Juvia's Place Saharan 2 palette. I just think the colors in here are just so beautiful. I love every single look that I come up with. I typically do the same like 2 or 3 looks all the time, but all of these colors in here are just so stunning, and every time I use this palette I get compliments on my eye makeup, and it is just So stunning. Formula's so blendable and pigmented, and I love this palette, and I get really excited whenever it comes up on my wheel spin. I'm like, yes! Blue eyeliner day, because that is, whew, this is a beautiful eyeliner, this guy right here, and then this is an ungodly beautiful inner corner highlight. So good. Coming in at number 2, so based on what you guys know about my collection, don't know if you figured out my top 2 yet. And yeah, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Coming in at number 2 is the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals palette. More or less a recent purchase for me, but it really is absolutely stunning. The mirror in here is perfection. Such a good mirror. And I just, for very like simple range of shades, you can get so many different looks out of this palette, and I love the different textures in here. I think that idea was brilliant, and this palette is organized so nicely, and I loved this palette. It is so stunning, and Tati did an amazing job, and I cannot wait for her to come out with new eyeshadow palettes, because you can bet your behind I'm gonna get on those. Love this palette. Thank you, Tati Westbrook. And as probably no shock to anybody, coming in at number 1, the ColourPop Bare Necessities palette. This was actually the last of the, so this came out second. This was the second mega palette that ColourPop released, but this was actually the last one that I got. But this is every neutral lover's dream and more, and it stops my heart every time I open it, and it's just so beautiful. And like I've said, ColourPop makes my favorite formula, and it's that palette that every time I want to do a neutral eye, I want to use this one. I don't always, because again, wheel spin, but like, I so love this palette. And there's so many different shades and tones of neutrals that it really is just perfect for just about anybody. So ColourPop really knocked it out of the park with this one, and I'm so excited. I really hope that one day I can get on their PR list for, if no other collection than like their mega palette releases, because I would die. Like, oh, love their mega palettes. So that is everything that I have for you guys today. Again, let me know down below if you agree with my ranking, disagree with my ranking, if there's any that you have in your collection and want to talk about some more, or don't have in your collection. Go ahead and tell me why, and whether or not you actually want to have it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I cannot wait to see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, everybody.